Welcome to the SR Snodgrass podcast. I'm Lenore Seifer, the Director of Human Resources here at Snodgrass, and today I'm with Shawn Kaciubij and Kaitlyn Gasper, both from our Risk Advisory Group. Shawn and Kaitlyn, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here today.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. So Shawn, could you get started and tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got started in the industry, your time at Snodgrass?
Sure. I've been to Snodgrass now since the fall of 2010. About a little over 25 years experience in public accounting. My whole career basically in financial institutions. Probably about 3 years ago, I became the director of our Risk Advisory Group. And I think that's what we're here to talk about today.
Thank you so much for that background. And Kaitlyn, how about you? How long have you been at Snodgrass now?
Yeah, I've been at Snodgrass for a little over 9 years now. I started in June of 2014. I came directly from college, so I have no prior experience other than Snodgrass. Initially, I started out in our internal audit outsourcing group, which is now known as the Risk Advisory Group. So I've been here my entire career, working in kind of the same area as Shawn mentioned, primarily with financial institutions.
Well, it's great to hear that and to hear how long of your history has been at Snodgrass as well as within the industry as well. So obviously we're working and talking with two experts here today. When we talk about risk advisory within professional services, it can mean a variety of different things. Can you tell us a little bit about what it means here at Snodgrass and kind of how you help clients overall with risk-based approaches and things along those types of lines?
Sure. And let me give you a little bit of history of how we came to be Risk Advisory Group.
That'd be great.
So at Snodgrass, working with financial institutions, I think we started over 35 years ago in our outsourcing group. So we were co-sourcing and outsourcing internal audit services and consulting services for many of our clients. Shortly after that, we started a consulting line of business and started putting in strategic plans for clients, working with risk management for them as they were growing and becoming larger institutions. And over the years, just started developing more and more services that we could help provide for our clients, more on the advisory side of things. And in the last couple of years, just decided with all the services that we're providing now, sort of made sense to rebrand and pull in the consulting services along with our internal audit outsourcing group and rebranded it as Risk Advisory.
So it sounds like it was kind of driven because of a client need then overall. Would you say that kind of really talks about, and it's how we at Snodgrass approach things then based on adapting to what our clients need at any particular time?
So I would say it's twofold. We've always had a consultative approach to our clients. The way we do things, we may come in and look at the very first thing we're asking for is your strategic plan, and then building off of that. So some of it is clients coming to us and say, hey, can you help us and provide this kind of service? On the second side, it's more of what we're doing as a proactive group, looking at what's coming down the pipeline from the regulators and what they're going to be looking for banks. And we try to help them, advise them on those sort of things.
Okay, thanks so much for that. And then, Kaitlyn, you were talking a little bit about your background and coming here coming to Snodgrass right out of college. What kind of services have you seen that the firm provides to clients, and what does that look like?
Yeah, like Shawn mentioned, within our group, we do a lot of outsourcing and co-sourcing with our clients, and that's focusing on the internal audit side of things, so looking at things from an operational perspective, auditing from the loan process, the deposits process, different risk management areas such as liquidity and interest rate risk, as well as our compliance services, so really auditing to the different acts and regulations, kind of tailoring our programs and our testing to ensure that the bank is complying with those areas. Aside from that, we also have a lot of specialized areas. Like you guys mentioned, we really adapt ourselves to the needs of our clients. So those specialized areas, they're tailored to what our clients need, or if there's something changing in the regulations, or maybe they had an examiner issue that they need us to come in and perform a review. We're really there for whatever they need us to do for them. We can really, tailor our services or create a different review for them, whatever they need as far as us from a third party consulting internal audit service.
Okay, thanks for that, a little bit of an overview and more in-depthly with that. And Shawn, can you tell us a little bit about who our ideal client is? Kaitlyn had mentioned financial institutions, but is there a particular type, size, age of an institution?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, Snodgrass has been around for 75 years. I think we, in the Risk Advisory Group, are working with over 100 financial institutions. So that could range from credit unions to savings and loans and thrifts, community banks, the whole way up to regional banks. We're working currently with a de novo bank that just started out, helping them get up and running with some of their internal audit programs. But then we'd also do, as Kaitlyn mentioned, co-sourcing with some of the large regional banks where they have full internal audit departments, but they're looking for us to provide some of the stuff that they can't get to on a normal basis. So asset size now really doesn't matter as much as what services they're looking for. We may have small credit unions where we just do a Bank Secrecy Act audit for them, the whole way up to maybe we're doing ERM and strategic planning for some of the large community banks. I think over the last couple of years, asset size has really grown with some of our community banks. So what you may consider to be your ideal client now is a much larger community bank. And some of the services that we provide, they're now looking for.
Okay. Thank you for that. And Kaitlyn, could you tell us a little bit more about some of those specialty audits that you do as well?
Yeah, for sure. So in the specialty audits that we perform, we have our enterprise risk management. We perform trust service audits. We do internal controls over financial reporting. We can come in and perform HMDA scrubs, which is, taking a look at the entire LAR for a certain time period or a year and scrubbing every single loan prior to an examination. We also have our BSA validation services that we're performing. I can't think, Shawn, did I miss any services there? I think I covered majority of them.
It's a long list.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like I said, we've done a lot of special one-off projects as well. And they may not be listed, one of our typical services that we list under the specialized areas. But we can really come in and perform a specialized review or kind of have a targeted review to what our client needs. So, maybe they like I mentioned, they had an examiner came in and said they had an issue in this area, or, maybe something occurred with one of their controls or processes failed and they want us to come in and review that specific process and give feedback on what we think they can strengthen or something like that. So it's ever changing. It's always, something new occurring. And that's what makes our group interesting as well, is that we can really tailor to what our client needs and what risks or what areas have been increased that they need to have us take a look at.
So some of our clients have retained us. We have a long working relationship with some of our clients, and they've retained us for many years. Why is that? And why should a client consider choosing Snodgrass?
Well, I think it's our culture here at the firm, and I think it's, the in-depth services that we provide to financial institution clients. As I mentioned, the firm's been around over 75 years, and we're all in on financial institutions. Many firms have kind of pulled back due to the risk involved in financial institutions. And I think we took the opposite approach. We're in it, let's go all in. So we expanded the services that we're offering to the clients. I think a lot of our staff, just like Kaitlyn here, have been with the firm since they started, whether they came with us through an internship program or they started right out of college. And just the training and development that we have here at the firm, all we work on are financial institutions in this group. So they're taking what they're learning from one client to the next. And I think that really, shows the clients our commitment to them, and that's why a lot of them stayed with us for this many years. That's
one of the things Heather and I talked about in the last podcast, was the fact that we regularly add new services based on what's coming down next, what our clients are going to need. And so to hear how the Risk Advisory Group has done that over the years just really is another testament to that as well. Kaitlyn, could you tell us a little bit what your thoughts are about the culture of the firm, why you've been at the firm for almost 10 years now too? What kind of keeps you here? Yeah, certainly. Definitely the culture plays a major role in why I've stayed here so long. My entire career, I've never felt the need to leave Snodgrass. Culture is huge. Coming into Snodgrass alone, just the different experts that we have, and we are really a full service firm. So the fact that there are experts in so many different subject areas, from our insurance, our tax, our IT, being able to, learn from so many different people with so many different backgrounds. And then also directly in our group, you're working directly with your management, your partners, which maybe you wouldn't have at a larger firm. So you're really valued, and a lot of effort is put into making sure that you succeed in your position at Snodgrass.
Snodgrass. For me personally, I've been given a lot of opportunity to continue and advance my career. And to me, that's one of the most important things, being able to have those resources or individuals available. So, I know that I can contact Shawn, or Shawn can mentor me on something, or other members within our group. That's really nice to have at hand. To further your career. And I'll have to say too, that filters into the way that we treat our clients as well. We really don't look at it as a transactional approach. We really want to get to know our clients on a personal level as well, and make sure that we're building relationships with them so that they can use us as a resource and reach out to us. And having all of the different subject matter experts and within the firm, if there's a question we can't answer, we certainly have someone at Snodgrass that can answer it. So I think having that culture filtering into how we treat our clients, it kind of all, it's all intertwined. And that's really important to me. Aside from, other things specific to culture, such as benefits, we have really great benefits at Snodgrass. You specifically, Lenore, you work really hard each year to make sure that we have great health benefits, keeping costs low for everyone and their families. And that's important. The fact that that's promoted, it's just a lot of things that I didn't really expect coming into an accounting firm. I thought it would be a lot more strict. Potentially, you're just another number. You're not really, focused on it. And that's completely opposite here. I do feel like Snodgrass really cares about us individually and how we succeed professionally.
It's interesting because over the years, we've heard a lot of people say before they joined us that they thought they'd kind of come get a couple years experience and move on. Did you kind of have the same thought process?
I did,
prior to joining us 9 years ago?
I did. Specifically when I was in school, I changed from accounting to forensic accounting. So I thought, let me get some auditing experience, and maybe there's something else out there for me. But then when I came here, and the culture and the work that we do, I truly enjoy. I know we'll get into BSA model validations. Things that there's been so many opportunities for me to kind of grow or focus on areas that I enjoy. After being here, the flexibility, the work-life balance, the culture, and truly enjoying the people that I work with, there hasn't been a reason for me to leave. So I think it's really, really easy for people to have that idea coming into it, but then also easily to fall into Snodgrass as your forever home. So I definitely had that as well.
Kaitlyn, earlier you had mentioned BSA. Could you tell us a little bit more about the history on that, what it stands for, and kind of how it came to be?
Sure. Yeah. So BSA stands for the Bank Secrecy Act. When we're performing those audits, we're focusing on Bank Secrecy Act, anti-money laundering, as well as OFAC, looking at the Office of Foreign Assets of Control. So this BSA has been around for at least 20 plus years. It really is necessary for banks to understand their overall risk profile. So BSA has a lot to do with risk as far as protecting themselves as well as their customers. From BSA, there's so many different aspects of it. It's a really large area that covers so many different areas of the bank to protect them from financial risks or other anti-money laundering controls in place as well. It's focusing on getting to know your customers, kind of understanding them, getting a baseline of your customers to monitor their activity to see if anything suspicious were to occur. It's also looking up and scanning customers against government lists to make sure that there isn't anything going on around the world that you need to be aware of or that could be involved in your customer base. It's risk rating your customers as well. So knowing which customers are from that lower risk area to the moderate or high risk area. So maybe in those instances, there needs to be a little bit enhanced due diligence, which is just ongoing or a little bit more frequent monitoring or a closer eye on those customers because of the activity that they're involved in. And that could just mean that they're a cash intensive business. Maybe they're a check casher. Maybe they're a grocery store, somewhere where the risk would be heightened a little bit. So overall, that area, as I mentioned, it covers a large range of, kind of just following the act, specifically monitoring government lists, looking at customers from a high risk standpoint, as well as just knowing your customers to see in what instances something may be, deviate from a normal pattern of activity.
Good to hear that. So you mentioned BSA model validations, and I know that's something that you work a lot within. Mm-hmm. And I'm guessing that really has tied with your professional growth as well, too. Mm-hmm. Could you talk a little bit about how that has kind of evolved and how you got involved in that part of it too?
Sure. Yeah, it was probably about 6 or 7 years ago where we started, really enhancing or working on that business line. And that need kind of stemmed from BSA is an area that affects all financial institutions regardless of size. Fraud can occur, money laundering can occur, suspicious activity in any institution size. And it's across the board for credit unions, community banks, national banks. And with the more as things started to progress, more institutions started implementing BSA models as well. And with the supervisory guidance out there specific to model risk management, BSA validations are a crucial part of model risk management. And that's something that needs to be done on an ongoing basis, not only focusing on the model as a whole, the mathematical accuracy, which is something that we don't specifically get into. That's more something that would be validated on the model as a whole by a third party of the model provider. But we're coming in and really looking at what is the bank's usage of that. So for me personally, being exposed to that, it was very interesting from the beginning. Being able to work on it as much as I do now and kind of lead that business line under advisement from the partners, has been really great for me. And I think it's interesting, and it's an area that's always evolving and always changing, and there's always something occurring in the economy that could potentially increase risks for financial institutions. So it's really cool and interesting to kind of stay on top of those things as well, and see how the models can be tailored or adapted to help banks, identify any potential suspicious activity.
Thanks for sharing that information. So my understanding is that Snodgrass can do an audit of BSA for clients, but there's another section of that too, or another kind of offshoot from that, and that's the BSA model validation, correct?
Correct, yes.
So how's that, and just a quick little snippet here of how's that different than a BSA audit?
Sure, yeah. So BSA audit, we're coming in and we're focusing on the actual controls that are in place and really looking at what has occurred. The BSA model is a tool that's used to identify potential suspicious activity and money laundering. So the tool aids the bank in identifying or monitoring their customers' activity for anything potentially suspicious. So a model, as I'm mentioning a tool, so software is very helpful just because, especially with larger institutions, even smaller institutions, you can't monitor every single transaction on your own from just say like a cash transaction report. So to have that model in place where it has parameters set up to scan your transactions, to go through and identify maybe it's keywords or maybe it's a transaction that falls within a certain dollar range. Something to alert the bank that, hey, this deviates from normal activity, or this is a keyword that was put in, this is potentially suspicious for you to take a look at. So what we're coming in is we're validating the usage of the model, so the bank's specific usage. And we're focusing on the inputs and the controls over those inputs, as well as policies and procedures, to make sure that management has proper controls to ensure that information is input accurately, pulling from source systems to be able to be analyzed for suspicious activity or potential suspicious activity. So we're looking at it from the input standpoint as well as the output. So what is it generating? What alerts are being generated? Is it creating a monotonous review? Is it useful information? It also scans government lists. You can file your currency transaction reports. Anything suspicious can be filed directly through the model. So, we're looking at it from what does the bank use the model for? And then each area that it is using it for, we're validating that. So as I mentioned, we're not necessarily going in there and recalculating algorithms or, verifying the mathematical accuracy of the model. That's more so done on the model provider side. We just want to see how the bank is using it versus outputs to make sure that they are, their anticipated results versus intended results kind of flows or aligns.
Okay, sounds like we should talk more about that at a future episode then. Shawn, could you tell us a little bit about our longstanding client history that we have with some of our clients, why they've chosen Snodgrass, why they continue to choose Snodgrass on a regular basis?
Sure, and I think on the risk advisory side, it's really what we're bringing to the table. We're getting hired to do a project, but we're not coming in, doing the project, and then leaving and saying, good luck in your operations, we did your project for you, and kind of leaving at that. So it's more of that advisor role that the clients really rely on. We're here to help them manage their risk, understand their risk, make sure they have controls in place for those risks, and then really be a part of their business as they're moving forward. So if anything else does come up, whether it's through regulatory exams, internal findings that they may have, any type of fraud that may occur within the organization, we're really there to help them as their advisors.
So it sounds like overall then that a lot of your project work is with long-term clients. You can help with project work, but you really develop that long-standing relationship and fully understand who they are as an institution, financial institution, and work with them on a long-term basis then.
Yeah, many of our clients have been with us, over 20, 30 years, and a lot of that comes just their advisory role that we have with them, helping them through different regulatory exams that they're going through, whether it was when Sarbanes-Oxley came into effect and how to put fiducia controls in if they're over $500 million, helping them build those programs for them, helping them show how to test it and what sample sizes to pull, whether we were doing it or they were going to do it internally. Really just part of their team, helping them assist in running their organization.
So over the years, we have a history of making sure that we are always staying on top of upcoming regulations and really becoming experts at that very early on so we can advise our clients. I'm going to throw a question here for you of where do you see this going? We see what kind of services we've implemented over the last 20 or so years. Where do you see this going in the future then too?
Yeah, so that was one of the reasons we did the name change to Risk Advisory. It's really kind of future looking. If you're in banking, you're in risk. That's part of your business model. So how can we help advise our clients through that process? Regulations are going to continue to change. Right now, Bank Secrecy Act became a hot button again. Was when the U.S. Patriot Act came out. Now we're talking about Russian and some of the money that could be flowing in from that country as well. So it's always going to be one of those hot button areas that we're looking at. But there's other regulations coming down the road, and it could depend on what president gets in office and who's in the House and the Senate and puts regulatory pressure on. We're seeing now more regulation come down the road.
So Shawn, if a client or prospective client is interested in learning more about our risk advisory services or maybe trying to learn more about our BSA validation, things like that, where do they get started? How can they learn more about Snodgrass and the services that you provide and how your unique approach would help them?
I would have any prospective client or current client look at our website, srsnodgrass.com, see the services that we provide, a little bit of history about our group as well. And they can also sign up for our compliance updates. We're sending out quarterly compliance updates about what we think is going to be impactful down the road to our current clients and see just what's out there from a compliance standpoint.
That sounds great. Thanks so much for providing that overview. And Shawn and Kaitlyn, it was great to talk with both of you today and to hear more about our risk advisory services and the clients that you serve.